Today we're going to talk about marriage and principles that make for a good marriage.
All right.
You know what I mean? You've been married how long?
I've been married 14, 15 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, but I've been with my wife, since I was 24,
Okay.
23, 24. And so, yeah, but we didn't get married till I was like 33.
And did you guys kind of do it the normal way of today where you kind of live together, maybe have a kid?
Yeah, I wasn't saved when I met my wife. My wife, she grew up in the church, but she had kind of like had backslidden and stuff. And so I was just totally like in the world. So the first, 10 years of our relationship, that was like on and off. We date for like, 7, 8 months, break up for like 6 months, get back together for a year, be off for 2 months, then get back together for 4 or 5 months.
That's awesome.
So it was like, no, it wasn't. Wasn't awesome. Like looking back, like I wish I would have, when I met my wife, I wish I would have been walking with the Lord. I wish I would have just married her. It would have saved myself like a lot of heartbreak.
Yeah.
A lot of in between stuff happened, just a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah. Gosh, that's crazy. And then when did your first kid come?
So 15 years ago.
Okay.
15 years ago, our first daughter was born. My wife came back from San Francisco. She went to school in San Francisco, and she came back.
What school did she go to?
No, I'm drawing a blank. It was a beauty school. It was
okay.
Paul Mitchell. She went to Paul Mitchell Beauty School.
Okay.
Out there. And then, so we were doing like a long distance thing while she was out there for a couple of years going to school. And then by this time, I'm already in my early 30s, and I'm kind of like just looking back over my life in my 20s and all the craziness. And I'm like, yeah, I need to settle down. Like, I think I want to like get with my wife. I want to be with her. I want to be with her. So I asked her when she came back, I said, well, why don't you move in with me? I didn't want to get like married or anything, but I wanted to be with her. Like really like give it a try this time. Like we're really going to like try to make this work. And then she got pregnant within a few months of being home. So we've been together since.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And
then you guys got married not too long after that, after she got pregnant?
Yeah, we got married. And then, and we still weren't saved. And then she started kind of like, she was always a believer. She always believed in God. And, but she was backslidden. And I had pretty much like, I grew up Catholic, but I had pretty much like written God off at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I necessarily didn't believe, but I guess I was angry at God.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't want anything to do with you anymore, God. Like, you go over there and I'll be over here, and you don't bother me and I won't bother you. I don't need you. I don't want you. And so I kind of just like was mad at God, I guess is the best way to put it. I'd go, I would say I didn't believe, but I believed. I still believed, but I was just angry.
Yeah, totally. And then so you've been married for almost 15 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah, that's cool.
Lots of ups and downs.
That's good. Yeah, I was looking at, marriage statistics are always interesting to look at, right?
Yeah, kind of sad.
Yeah, it's there is a lot of divorce, of course, and that kind of thing, and it always kind of begs the question of what really makes for a good marriage. In life, in the Bible we don't have many very, very good examples.
No, but the principles are laid down.
Yes.
Even though if we don't see the examples lived out necessarily in the people in the Bible.
Yeah, probably Jesus is the best example, though he never got married.
Yeah.
He gets his whole relationship, he is spoken of in marital terms with the church, right? Like even John the Baptist, his cousin, called him the groom.
Yeah.
Said, this is the groom, dude. Like, and he's the main dude. And everybody was into John the Baptist, and he was like, "Hey, don't be into me, man. I'm just a friend of the groom.
Yeah.
That's all I am. Like if this is a wedding, like I'm just one of the guys, but he's the groom."
You know what I always thought crazy about that though is like later though John asked when he's in prison, like, are you the one?
Yeah.
Like, so like even he had like this lapse of faith. Like, are you the one? Are you the one we're looking for?
Yeah, and I would imagine, I would imagine John the Baptist, like most of the prophets, and Jesus called him the greatest of them all, because of the one who he was ushering in, so to speak. He was ushering in the Lord, and the quote of him, John the Baptist saying, "Make way for the Lord." That's a quote from Isaiah, meaning make way for Yahweh. It's not just make way for like a servant of the Lord. This is making way for God.
Yeah.
And but I would imagine like a lot of these prophets, they go through a lot of depression and times of melancholy where they're kind of like bummed out, like, man, what's going on?
What's also crazy, since we're on this subject, I find it crazy that he said John, like you said, John the Baptist is the greatest born amongst women, but at least in the kingdom of God is greater than he.
Yeah.
So that's like, I don't know. That's just always like, that's what does that even mean? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. It's, I think for those that I'll use a word, dispensational. A lot of people go, "Oh, dispensational's lame," but all it means is that there are different eras, and in different eras, like Jesus said, in the age to come, that is a dispensation. So it's not like we're making something up. We're just using a word to describe something.
Yeah.
And that is, see, and in that passage with John the Baptist, and that he who believes in me is greater than even John, is the idea of that there is a dispensation of relationship with the Messiah that has a greater fulfillment than even what John the Baptist experienced. So John the Baptist experienced ushering in the Christ, the Messiah, but those that believe in Jesus, on, if you will, this side of the cross, have a intimacy through the work of the Holy Spirit with Jesus that, man, the prophets longed for. An empowering, a consistent, empowering adoption.
And it says even the angels look on and wonder about this relationship.
That grace,
we have.
this grace, yeah. So it's super unique. So yeah, I mean, Jesus is the greatest example of marriage. I mean, in the Bible, who does it perfectly, in the sense that he is the awesome, guy. He's the person who does the right thing.
So what made him so perfect at his marriage?
Yeah, it's such a good question. First of all, I think commitment. Jesus was, any good marriage, you have to have a commitment, like a resolve. I like the word resolve because it kind of makes me think of like you kind of draw a line in the sand.
Yeah. Resolve is good. I like covenant.
Covenant.
It's a covenant.
Yeah, which a lot of people obviously don't know what that means, right? If you say like, "Hey, dude, like I'm in a covenant," they're like, "What?" And you have to say that's an agreement.
Yeah.
It's a contractual agreement, and it's binding. And and they might go, "Oh, okay, I get it." But it's a great word because it does have the idea of commitment and resolve in it.
Yeah.
A covenant can't be a covenant if there's not commitment and resolve in it.
I just like the word. It carries like a weightiness to it.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, it's like this. Oh, okay, that's like serious.
Yeah. And I know for me, like it like there was a time in my life where I needed to make a resolve. Like I had to say, I am going to take this step, and entering into this contract, this marital contract called a covenant, biblically speaking. And so in the Bible, marriage is a covenant contract. And so we see Jesus ushering in this with the new covenant. Anyway, that's like the analogy there. But when I remember there had to be a really intentional, I am going to get married, I am totally in this. kind of just an understand, like putting. I was just in Luke 13 today, where Jesus was talking about like count the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't go to war and not meet with your peeps to find out if you're going to be able to take on the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And he says you got to count the cost. So in a sense there's that kind of resolve. I think every good marriage has to have the parties, husband wife kind of thing, male
Uh,
female, to have like a resolve first and foremost.
yeah.
Where they don't get into it and they're like, I don't know.
Yeah. See, I was even though I wasn't, well, I grew up Catholic, like I said. So I don't know. I just took marriage very seriously, and even so, when my wife,
That Catholic background,
yeah, the Catholic guilt. So my wife, when I
Totally.
found out she was pregnant, I was like, well, I need
Well,
to marry her now. You know
you
what I
are,
mean?
yeah, you did the Catholic no.
Yeah. And I told her, I was like, all right, like I proposed, and I told her like, but this is to me, this is forever. Like, I didn't believe in divorce. Like, there was divorce in my family. I'd seen divorce in not my parents or anything, but other members of my family, aunts and uncles, had gotten divorced. But there was like less divorce than there was more divorce. And I'm talking about like these people stuck it out through thick and thin, like through mistresses, through all kinds of crazy stuff. You just did not get divorced.
Yeah,
It didn't matter how rotten your marriage was.
it's like the 1940 movies.
Yeah.
Where there is a mistress, it's totally known.
Yeah.
Or the lady's a playgirl and she's just out and about, but they all know, but there's no way they're getting divorced.
Yeah. You don't do it. You don't. I guess it's more, yeah, you just don't want to bring shame on the family name. Like, you can't get divorced.
Yeah.
You can slap your wife around and be a drunk and cheat on her, but you don't get divorced. Whatever you do, don't get divorced.
Yeah.
So-
So that was a hang up for you.
Yeah. So like, I went into it very seriously. Like, no, like, we're going to do this. Like, this is like forever.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, my in-laws, very strong Catholic
Mhm.
family. Just like any, I would just think of Mexican traditional Catholic family.
Mhm.
I mean, I think they would fit that bill
Yeah.
good. And they did not attend our wedding
Uh-huh.
because our wedding was at a Calvary Chapel
Uh-huh.
and church, so that's a non-denominational Christian church, and there was a lot of, me and Sylvia had a lot of issues before, and whatever reason they decided not to come, and I understood, like I wasn't, me and Sylvia both weren't shocked by it or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
We understood,
Yeah.
they would have rathered us go through the Catholic kind of thing where you meet with the
Yeah.
priest and do
Yeah.
that thing, and that wasn't going to happen,
Yeah.
because I was learning the Bible a lot,
Uh-huh.
and like I was like, dude, why you pray to Mary? And I was that guy.
Uh-huh.
I was like, man, like Mary had kids. It says it right there, and
Yeah.
and it just wasn't going to go well
Yeah.
if I went if I went into this, and I told Sylvia, like, I don't think it's going to go well, man. It's like I might, I'm just going to open up the Bible and just say like,
Yeah.
hey, like this is what it says,
Yeah.
like, and so we didn't go that route. They didn't come to the wedding. But they, I remember that first meeting, that dinner after we got married. We invited them over to our apartment. I was at the university, invited to the apartment, and the big topic was like, are you gonna
Raise the kids.
are you gonna divorce? Well, are you gonna leave our daughter? Like, are you committed? Are you committed?
Okay. It wasn't about, are you going to raise the
No,
kids
no.
Catholic? All right.
Yeah, no, it wasn't so much that. Even though that was kind of there,
Uh-huh.
but it was very much. I remember there was a moment of like, I was assuring them like I am committed and I'm resolved,
All right.
and that was important to them because
Okay.
they were Catholic and they had that thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
Where-
See, I didn't get married in a church either. I went I went online and find an ordained minister,
Nice.
and then we went up to the De Grazia Chapel and got, because I wanted some kind
Oh.
of like form of religion there. You know what I
Yeah.
wanted, even
That's,
though I was
that's
like
the artist, right?
a pagan. Yeah, he's from I don't know. He's Italian. He's Italian, but he's associated with Tucson in Arizona.
Yeah.
But he's actually from Italy. He's an Italian guy. Yeah, and he's like, well, do you want the religious one or the non-religious one? I was like, give me the religious one. So he put a little Jesus sprinkle on it, you know.
Did he?
Yeah. Well, no, he didn't even say Jesus. He just said something probably about faith and.
Yeah, his painting. I mean, the paintings are cool. You know. Okay.
Oh, yeah. So that was my story.
Yeah. That's funny. So, okay, resolve. I was looking online at traits of a long-lasting marriage.
Okay.
And they said the second one was commitment. So what we're
Okay. This is a secular thing?
Yeah.
You got this from? Okay. What was okay, I want to know what's number one then.
Okay, what number one, because number two was commitment, is communication.
Oh, all right. All
so
right.
It's the number one trait of marriages that last. So, I probably would have put commitment first because it seems like you got to commit, man. You got to make the commitment. But I don't know. I mean, communication's obviously probably numero uno of why marriages don't last.
Well, I'm surprised they even put it in there. I was thinking like number one would be like passion.
Nah.
You need passion. If it's like something worldly and secular, I'd expect it to be like passion.
Yeah. No, it says communication.
Right.
So, you know, and that's good. That makes for, I think, biblically speaking, you know, you got to, I think of passages, you know, like in Colossians 3, it talks about us to be kind and patient with one another and forgiving one another. And but having good communication, that takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, I think that's a lifelong thing there.
Yeah, because I mean, like when you're dating, my commitment to Sylvia sucked. I mean, I really was bad. She would come over my house, and I would be spinning records in a room filled with graffiti, and she would, I would almost like neglect her, you know. She just would like hang out, and she'd talk to my dad or whatever. You know, it not much communication.
Yeah.
It was more like, hey, let's go, and then we get in the car and go somewhere.
Were you saved at this point?
Yeah.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, but I had such a, what we call in Christianity, a backsliding 3 years.
All right.
So where I just.
So like, okay, how old are you then when this is going on?
This is like 18.
Because how old were you when you got saved? Like 17?
Yep, I was at the end of my high school year.
So were you, okay, so when you're 17, were you like on fire for the Lord?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what that meant because my giving of my life to Jesus was very separate from church because I just did not know that culture. I was just reading the Bible, you know, from Genesis on.
Yeah.
And I literally just in my heart repented, like said I needed atonement. A guy taught me about Jesus to read the book of Hebrews. I did that to understand the fulfillment of Leviticus. And so I understood Jesus was our atoning sacrifice. He was my high priest. He was my intercessor. And so I totally was in. You know, as Bob Marley was into Rastafari, I was into Jesus. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like I was writing notes, put them up on my wall, but and then I just went through a real tank job. I just, you know, my mom went through a depression. She went through this incredible time of, she left her home, left her job with IBM, and I didn't live with her, but she wasn't that far from me, but she just went rogue, you know, and the money that was helping me at university to give me some kind of stability was gone.
All right.
And when that went, it like, I just unraveled. I just went right back into like hanging out with old friends, going back, lived in my old neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, you know, like the Bible talks about like a dog returning to its vomit.
Yeah, I just went right back. And even though it's like I would be like high on ecstasy and just totally strung out on acid, I would be telling them about Daniel. You know, the book of Daniel, chapter 9, dude, there's 490 years, and you ain't going to believe what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And I remember my friends are just like, dude, that's hardcore. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
like, dude, that's crazy, Bo. Like, man, how did you learn all this? But I had so much of the word in me.
That's like, I don't know. That's awesome. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
awesome, but it is awesome. You know what I mean? That's like some like Lonnie Frisbee type stuff there.
It is. It is. Oh, totally. I definitely followed in Lonnie's steps in that way. Where Lonnie Frisbee, if you don't know, was a guy used by God in the early stages of Calvary Chapel, and had a lot of tussle with his his demons, so to
Yeah.
speak. And I certainly did, and I was blessed to be able to get out of it. And and at some point, but there was a time, those 3 years, where I just was right back in it, and it was back in harder than ever. It was like the drugs were harder, the amount were harder, everything was harder, and it was just
So,
hammering away.
what brought you to the end of that?
I mean, talk about marriage. It was really Sylvia was a big player in that. Because um, I cared for Sylvia. I thought she was an awesome girl.
Hmm.
It was a beautiful Mexican girl. I'd known her since she was a kid, since she was 7, 8 years old. And she lived 4 houses down from my mom.
Right.
So I think because I was backsliding with Sylvia, Sylvia always had a heart, and because of her Catholic background, she had a awareness of God,
Hmm.
of the God of the Bible. And because I was in a backslidden state, um, I I knew God was the answer.
Yeah.
I knew Jesus was the answer. Um, and seeing what I was doing to tear apart her world as well as my world was probably one of the biggest impacts on my heart, because when you care for people and you're really messing them up,
Hmm.
you know um, you have a couple decisions at that point. Either you become indifferent and you start hating them, you know what I mean? You just
Hmm.
become indifferent, like I don't care. Or you care so much that you're broken. You just break because you are messing up their world. You can't help them. You're impotent. You're a mess yourself.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got to this place where um, I could not go on like this, and I needed to have a change, and um, to see Sylvia and me tanking together like that just wasn't good. And so I talk about good communication. I think the best thing I ever did was to sit down with her finally and just say and just confess and just finally to communicate that I have failed as a boyfriend, and I'm not Jesus,
Hmm.
and that's who we need. And I finally was able to kind of put it together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
No,
have
I know.
and
Like,
have a talk.
I mean, what you're saying is like very similar to what happened to me.
Yeah.
Like, I was already married at this point, and I was like, started smoking pot, like crazy again. And
Yeah.
this wasn't the like, the ditch weed I smoked in high school. This is like this hydroponic, crazy weed they got nowadays. I was like drinking like a fish, like,
Yeah.
4 nights a week. And then it was just God. And I was already a professing Christian at this point.
Yeah.
And then God, it was like the same thing. God just kind of, one day, like everything was like falling apart, caving in on itself. And it's like one day I just woke up and I'm like, what am I? Like anxiety was at a all time high. And it was just like, I woke up one day and I knew it was like God was throwing down the gauntlet. Like, okay, are you in or are you out? This is it. Make up
Yeah.
your mind. Either you're going to go this way or you're going to follow me. Which one do you want to do? Because you can't have both anymore. I've been really patient with you and I've been letting you have one foot in both worlds, but the party's over now. So what do you want to do? You're going to choose me or you're going to choose this lifestyle and watch your marriage fall apart and be an addict or who knows what's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I chose God. I knew instinct, like, I have to choose God.
Yeah.
And that's when me and my wife both, she was already, like I said, I was already professing Christian. I was like studying the Bible, listening to Bible messages and stuff.
Yeah.
But kind of very similar.
Yeah.
Different, but very similar.
Yeah. Yeah. Where you have that pull to this old world.
Yeah.
And, when God's procuring you to Him, He's meaning He's got His arms on you, but the enemy has their arms on you, and so He's procuring you, right? He's pulling you away from them, but it feels crazy because you feel just like a tug of war going on in your life, and all the friends that are in your relationship and life, and how that plays a part in what you do in your world, and you have to learn. All of a sudden you go, man, I got to cut that off. I got to cut off friends. I got to things like that. But yeah, so communication was big for me and Sil. Just to be able to talk about things that mattered. To finally get to a place where we could talk about real things.
Yeah.
And where I think a lot of our dating life was just a lot of, frill. It was a lot of just cultural talk, unfortunately,
Yeah.
And, Sylvia was someone, though, I remember in junior high always having cool talks with on the phone. And they were always just cool and meaningful, but as we got older, we got stubborn and we got messed up with the culture, and our hearts became calloused.
Yeah, you start putting up these walls.
Yeah, we put up.
Start hurting each other, and you're like, I don't want to. And then there's resentment. All this stuff comes in, and
it's hard to say, And as a guy who's, wearing Dickies and shell toe Adidas and, colored hair shaved and got his nose rings and his earrings and all that look. You're not supposed to be vulnerable. You're not supposed to be the guy that says, "Hey, I'm sorry, I suck, and I need help." And so that was a real hurdle for me to get to that place where I can communicate. But I think in marriage, like when I look, I've been married almost 32 years, but when I look at marriage, it just keeps building where you always got to be communicating vulnerably.
Because you change, you become different people.
Yeah, you can't just communicate to communicate like sake, right? Like it's not just talking about, what's your favorite movie, right?
Yeah.
And like that's cool. I mean, nothing's wrong with that.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's got to be talks too about wishes, wants, and desires.
Yeah, you got to be. Yeah, it's vulnerability. You got to be, and that's hard. That's even after 15 years of marriage and 20 some years being together with each other. Like it's still hard to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
You still don't want to be judged. You don't want to be rejected.
Yeah, yeah. When I think of communication too, I think of like safety, like safety in communication. Like, can I say things to you that you're not going to take so hard that, like I can't really talk to you about this.
Yeah.
Like I have to go talk to my girlfriends about this, or I have to go talk to my boyfriends. I have to go to the bar and like talk to the bartender about it. I mean, many people do that.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife's a hairdresser, and she comes home and tells me, like, these people are sitting in her chair and telling her this wild stuff. I'm like, I'd take that to the grave. I wouldn't tell anybody I did that.
Yeah, she's like, well, hairdressers are like pastors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, they hear everything.
Yeah.
They hear everything. They probably hear more than pastors.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But no, it's but yeah, it's just you have to me, it's like there has to be a safety to where you can say things that aren't that great, and like we are able to like understand that the big picture is that we're in unity. The big picture is that we're for each other.
Yeah, the covenant. It comes back to the covenant. We know I'm not going anywhere, you're not going anywhere.
That's right.
And then that creates that safety. Like I can't. It's still hard, but
yeah,
You have that to fall back on.
you have to. You have to be able to take something that someone says that you don't like, and it might be a critique,
Mm.
and this is where the Bible's so important because it says the fool, does not take correction.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to not be a fool, I'm going to have to take correction. And I'm going to have to take correction from my spouse. And she might say something that, hurts me. And I'm going to have to process that knowing that she is for me,
Mm.
that she's not against me, you know. Um,
That's where humility comes in. You need humility. You got to check your pride. And I think, me personally, I believe that like all sin can be tied back to pride. No matter what the sin is, it all goes back to pride.
yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, self-sufficiency, pride.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But like if your wife says something to you that's like if she says it in a mean way, like I think you're a piece of crap, you know what I mean, and you smell and you know what I mean, and she's just going at you,
Uh-huh.
like it's hard not to take that personally,
Yeah.
when if she's bent like that, where she's, but and I wouldn't suggest that's not a biblical way to talk.
Oh yeah.
Where it says our words should be grace seasoned with salt. That we should speak kindly to one another. We should be slow to speak and quick to listen and slow to wrath. But if she comes to me and says, hey, like, honey, and then she, and so I know she's on my team. She says, honey, or whatever, like, hey, Beau, I love you, but, look at this.
So does it say that in this list? I want to know what the rest of the list says because it says communication.
So it says communication.
But what you're describing is like biblical communication.
Yes.
So communication in the world can mean all kinds of stuff. You say what you feel's on your heart because you be you and you do you, and if they can't handle it, then who cares?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the bummer is it kind of just lists that. Now I could click this and it goes to a website and it goes into more and it says this. Okay, let's see. Couples with long-lasting marriages talk to each other without lying, accusing, blaming, dismissing, and insulting. They do not stonewall each other, become passive-aggressive, or call each other names. The happiest couples aren't those who are concerned about who is at fault, as they regard themselves as a unit. Mm-hmm. What affects one half of the couple affects the other. And what is most important to these couples is the relationship is healthy. So that's, I think, right on when it comes to their idea of communication. This is, by the way, I'm reading from marriage.com.
Right.
I'm not sure what the kind of background is. It feels a little secular, but it definitely, you could see there's a lot of Christian kind of vibe in here as well.
All truth is God's truth.
Yeah, totally. So there's some great stuff there, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, there are some people that, what I find in communication too is some families like grow up, like say you're an Italian family and you're in a real strong-willed Italian family. Mm-hmm. and they tend to and it's kind of that typical, you say what's on your mind,
yeah,
and you just lay it out,
yeah,
and it can be really really intense,
yeah,
but there's this underlying idea that we are for the family, and everything's about the family, because it's almost like permeated in that culture, that family's everything, and so they can speak almost like it sounds like, to a person who's maybe not in that culture, it sounds harsh.
Yeah, it's very abrasive.
Yeah, where you're like, woo, I don't know. I always think of the movie by Cher, Moonstruck.
Oh yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah, and it's just great, dude. It's like that typical Italian family, but the way they talk to each other, you're just like, oh, like that's so gnarly, and it's like everything's in front of the family and everything's just open, but it's hard.
Yeah.
And I think if you could talk that way if there's that great kind of glue of that we are family, we are together, and we're going to work this out together kind of idea. But most of us don't come from that kind of strong family thing that
Yeah.
you see in like a movie like Moonstruck.
Yeah, and once again, that's a movie. Like, how
Yeah.
real is
Yeah, how
that
real
really?
is it?
Because
Yeah.
then you go watch The Sopranos,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and they're
yeah.
all stabbing each other in the back.
Like I
all
always,
this.
when I think of Moonstruck, the movie, I think of Cake Boss.
Yeah,
His family.
yeah.
Kind of an Italian, really
Uh-huh.
strong wife, and she's just all and she's just giving it to him, But it's like, and he's just like, oh man, she's a mess.
I think it's like a romanticized version of what really happens.
That's
in
right.
Those families.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I think, even though it is part of the culture, I do still think people walk away with scars from that.
Oh yeah.
And that's like
Yeah.
a big, if you haven't seen The Sopranos, I don't recommend you watch it. It's not very Christian, but that's kind of a big theme of the series. It's like, it's supposed to be about family, but it's really not. At
Yeah.
the end, you start to see all these cracks in the facade.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me.
Yeah.
And that's just not true.
Oh, the power of life and death is in the tongue.
Yeah, that's right. So communication, I think that's a good one. This other one that it brought up was, let me see if I can get over here now. Okay. So third one they said is kindness.
All right.
So just being kind to one another.
Does it give a definition of kindness like you did about the other one?
No, it doesn't.
Oh.
It just says kindness.
Because once again, like what the secular world views as kindness and a biblical view of kindness are two different things.
Yeah, let me see. Okay, it says, just think. Okay, while it may seem too simple, just think. Aren't kindness and generosity often the first behaviors encouraged in toddlerhood and reinforced throughout a person's life? Applying kindness and generosity to marriage and long-term commitment relationships may be a little more complex, but the basic golden rule should still be applied. So the biblical
golden rule.
That's right. Do unto others.
But I feel like
I
feel like people don't even necessarily
know
where that
means.
comes from.
Right?
Yeah.
They're like, what? Golden rule? Oh yeah, do unto others as you would
Because
have done to
if
you.
I meet someone and I start like in a brotherly way, in a loving way, start calling them out on their sin, they're not going to think I'm very kind.
Right. Yeah, it's like, to me, kindness is like just being, making sure that whoever it is, your spouse, but your kids or friends, just know that you're for them. Like this is like, kindness is something that is missed in our world today.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is so antagonistic towards each other. Like what they think about politics, what they think about this, blah, blah, what they think about Israel. It's like everything's so antagonistic.
Yeah.
Where people can't just sit down and just start with any kind of kindness. Like, hey, can we just be kind? Like, we can disagree, but can we be kind and disagree?
Do you ever think there was a time when people were able to do that?
Well, I don't think we can do it well. I mean, but I think it's something that, obviously through the work of the Holy Spirit, as far as a Christian worldview, that should be something that's a part of our life, because the fruit of the Holy Spirit is
kindness. One of them.
Yeah, is kindness. So it should be something that, in my marriage, if my spouse is like thinking of me and then thinking he's not a very kind person, he's kind of, what would be the opposite of kind?
Antagonistic, like you were saying, maybe, I would think.
Yeah, maybe.
Mean-spirited.
Yeah, mean-spirited. Yeah, I mean, that would be a bummer if you're married to someone who is going to come at you. So instead of like saying something positive, they were going to say something negative. Right?
But I think, I know I can speak for me in my own marriage. I feel like that always happens. Like, not always happens, but it's something you always struggle with. It's something you always just struggle with. I mean, there are people that are just, like my wife, is one of the kindest people I've ever met, but even she can say things that are cutting sometimes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
does it to inflict, hurt and stuff. And I do it a lot more than she does, but but it's like, that's where you need to have a Christ-centered marriage. Like Jesus needs to be the center of your marriage, and everything needs to sprout off of that. Otherwise, I don't even know. I just don't really know how people get through life or marriage or anything without being Christian or Christ centered.
Yeah, well, what we have in Christ is not just a philosophy,
Mm-hmm.
on how to live.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just a law
Mm-hmm.
of how to live, but we have an example
Yeah.
of how to live. And so that's the beauty of Christian theology, is it's not just law, it's not just philosophy, but it's actually show and tell. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to show you, I'm going to wipe your feet, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to show you what humility looks like.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you how to serve God with your whole heart, mind, soul, and strength.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you what even submission is. And the reason why that's so interesting theologically, it's so God gets glory in everything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The one
Exactly.
who initiates salvation, and the one who is the example of how to live. So there's no human that's going to get glory over God. So what does God do? He becomes a human.
Yeah. He comes down himself, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
and does it.
And yeah. And what other religion says that?
Nobody, no
Yeah.
one.
No one says that. Like, I'm
Yep.
going to come down as a man
Yep.
and fix this because you guys can't.
They might have an exalted rabbi, an exalted, prophet, an
Uh,
exalted, meditation guy,
Yeah, it's like a system. You work this system, and this will get you closer to the deity.
Yep.
But that's what Christianity is like. No, you'll never be the deity. That's what you don't understand.
Right. God's got to do
Like,
it all.
even your good deeds are like filthy rags.
Right.
Like,
God does everything. God says, no one gets glory.
yeah,
No one gets glory other than me.
yeah,
I got servants and I'll use people, I work through them, but no one's going to get ultimate glory. I do not share my glory with another. That's what the scriptures say.
yeah. The Westminster Confession says the chief end of man is to love God eternally and bring glory to him. Bring glory to God and love him eternally.
Yeah.
That's the chief end of man. That's all we're here to do.
Yeah.
So everything you do, you should be giving glory to God and loving him eternally. And
Yeah.
if it doesn't fit into either one of those categories, you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, and that's that again, it's an example is, what is it, worth more than 1,000 words, right?
Yeah.
Is It's one thing if God gives you a law,
Mm-hmm.
and we have some kind of law to go off of.
Uh-huh.
And we go, "Oh yeah, we got the law from God."
Uh-huh.
Mount Sinai, or through Muhammad, that's how we got the law, or whatever you want to
Uh-huh.
say, right? You got the law. It's one thing to say that and try to obey that law, and I would beg to think that no one's really keeping it 100%.
And I think
No
that's what
matter.
the problem is. People
Right.
think like, well, that's what it is. Like I talk to people all the time and they're like, well, yeah, I just do these good things. I'm like, no, the whole point of the law is you can't do it. You
Yeah.
can't keep the law. It's not,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. I do these things. This example Jesus set, you can't do it. Even
Yeah.
if you wanted to, you
Yeah,
couldn't.
my answer to even like Islam is you're not keeping Sharia 100% perfect.
Yeah.
You still can't do it right.
Yeah.
You can't even keep your own law, all the things intact.
Yeah.
There's always going to be failures and flaws, and again, the beauty of Christology is that God does the work, right? And this isn't just a New Testament idea, as you brought up before in a podcast with Abraham and putting him to sleep and going through the sacrifice. This is a very Old Testament concept, very early on in the Torah
Yeah.
concept, and that God gets the glory. It's His work, it's His covenant, it's His doing. That's it. Where all the other religions tend to glorify other people,
And there's
and,
something
and there's like a rival with God.
offensive to us about that though.
Yeah.
To our human nature, our sinful nature, we want to be like, is it Nahum? Or the guy who goes, go bathe in the Jordan River, and he's like, I don't want to do that. I'm not gonna go that.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's telling him like, well, if he wanted you to go do
Nahum.
this, that, or the other, you do that, will, because then you feel
Right.
like, oh, I did this. I earned this. That's why you're doing this for me, and that's what we want to do, and that's what I want to do so often. Is like,
Right.
I don't want this free gift. I want to feel like I got one over on God, and now you owe me, God.
Yeah.
Because I went to church this Sunday, and I read my Bible this morning, and when I don't do those things, I kind of feel kind of gross. But
Yeah.
I did it today, so you got to love me today.
That's right. So kindness, that's one of the ones it says, and Jesus, of course, is super kind. And acceptance, it says people in happy marriages accept their own faults as well as those of their partner. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important in the idea that do I in my marriage am I do I mean when you're married, do you see the flaws, the good, the bad, the ugly with your spouse?
Oh, definitely.
And if they snore or not,
Mm-hmm.
if whatever. I mean, everything.
I think if you're in tune with the spirit too, you see it in yourself.
Mm.
You kind of like, ooh, like, why am I doing that? Like,
Yeah.
if you have a teachable heart, you kind of see, like, why did I just say that? Why did I do that?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's good to have a good self-evaluation to go like, hey, um, I understand my flaws, and I see my flaws, and I don't like my flaws, and so it brings me to a place of acceptance. And the Christian idea would be is that because I want mercy on me,
Mm-hmm.
I would now extend mercy to my spouse.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to be quick to judge. I'm not going to be this person that's going to come down harshly. Instead, I want to be judged in a merciful way myself by
Mm-hmm.
God, so that I want to extend mercy.
How good do you feel you are at that?
Um, I I I, I sense I have a pretty good awareness of a lot of my flaws.
All right.
And I think it has to do with just working so much in recovery on so
Mm-hmm.
many things in life,
Mm-hmm.
where I do not think I have it together in the slightest.
Yeah.
I'm very much prone to go the other way, like, ooh, I got stuff,
Uh-huh.
you know, and so I tend to want to I think I tend to be very non-judgmental,
All right.
and I am very accepting, very tolerant. I think in a lot of ways where someone can do behavior, and I'm not just going to jump on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just going to be that person who's like, boom, I'm on it.
All
I'm going to
right.
tell you what I think about that.
All
I
right.
tend to be much more patient. Um, and I'll think about it, and I'll pray about it, and I'll wonder like, hey, why am I irritated by that? Is that something with me?
All right.
And so I kind of contemplate those
All
things a little
right.
bit.
Okay. Do you feel you're always that way? Do you feel that's the
No,
spirit working in you? Because
yeah,
I feel like you already got this laid back California
yeah,
vibe,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like way like gonna let things slide. Like, oh, that's cool, bro. Whatever,
You
man.
know, I
So
would.
how much of it is like you're just Bo's personality,
Yep.
and how much of it is it like God working in you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna say that to my friends in California, they would say, "Hey, Bo, you've always been super, super chill, and not just chill, but you've been super friendly and patient, and
Yeah.
and that's just your temperance." Because I
Uh-huh.
was I was on a walk with the guitar player for Goldfinger, and he's a friend, and the ska band,
Uh-huh.
and he's hilarious. But he said, "Dude, I remember we were walking, and he said, dude, you've always been like that," and that was one of his
Yeah.
comments. And um, and so I think there is some temperance there, like
All
just the
right.
way I was wired.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think where the Holy Spirit comes in is the idea of mercy.
Uh-huh.
That is not so a part of anybody, I think,
Yeah.
initially. But as Christ has come into my life, and I've seen His example of mercy,
Mm-hmm.
it makes me go, hey, I want to extend that mercy because I want to be judged in a merciful way.
Yeah.
Because mercy is the idea is that what you do deserve,
Uh-huh.
you don't get.
Yeah. Not getting what you deserve.
Right, right.
It's not that you don't deserve God's wrath. You're just not going to get
That's right. You
it.
deserve God's wrath. So it's like the idea is that God is righteous, and if He's righteous, He needs to judge sin, and you are not righteous. So
Yeah.
so you are under the wrath of the judge.
Yeah.
And so Jesus intercedes, saves us from that. He is
Uh-huh.
the intercessor.
Yep.
So that's why he's called the high priest. And so I think all that learning again and seeing Jesus' example has brought it to another heightened awareness, a spiritual awareness, where now I think not just being, kind and everything like that, but also having this kind of layer of wanting to accept people because mercy.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, like God knows my flaws and yet he is with me. So why can't I extend mercy and patience and tolerance with this person?
Yeah.
Like in a marriage, I think to have a good marriage, you have to be somewhat tolerant
Yeah.
of your spouse's flaws.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times I can speak for myself anyways, like the longer you're married, the more they kind of grate on you.
Yeah.
Some things I feel like that you just get used to, like, okay, that's who they are. And there's other things like, I've been dealing with you not putting the lid back on the jam for 30 years and I've had enough. This is going to end now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's little idiosyncrasies that people have. The way they manage a bathroom, the way they manage a bedroom, the way they manage a kitchen.
Yeah.
Our living spaces. That we start seeing all these little things that just are all over the place.
Was that on the list? Compromise? That was on the list, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's acceptance.
All right. Yeah, because that's like you got to be willing to compromise. There's got to be this compromising.
Yeah, and that's what I think it's talking about is accepting people's faults. So compromising, right?
Yeah.
And perceiving your shortcomings and knowing their understanding theirs. That you do have an unconditional, commitment to the marriage, to the covenant, and so we can live with all this, and it might be something where, say, someone neglects something like over and over and over and over and over, right? Like it can irritate you and irritate you and irritate you, and you can go the route where you in a marriage where you can say, like, don't you love me? Like, don't you know I get upset with this? And you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, totally.
You can go that route, or you can go the route of saying, hey, why can't I just extend mercy? Like, okay, maybe this person isn't demonstrating this incredible love for me in this area, the way I want to see it.
Yeah.
But can I not extend a mercy to them? Like, if I think they deserve some kind of judgment for their neglect, can't I have mercy on them? I mean, God's had mercy on me.
Yeah.
Like, and then
kind of just comes back to me that self-aware. You got to be self-aware and kind of think like, well, maybe she's tired of me leaving my underwear on the lampstand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm mad about the jelly jar, but she's mad about this. So like, we gotta
And even personalities, like accepting personalities. Like, some people like to be around other people. Some people don't like to be around other people.
Yeah.
Some people like to like Prince in the Revolution as far as music, and some people like Iron Maiden, and there's so many differences in the way we are, right? And like your wife might say a good time is you guys just hanging home and just enjoying a movie together and that kind of thing, and you might think, oh, dude, no, let's go to a hockey game, kind of thing. Let's go out. But she might not have that kind of temperament.
Yeah.
Or he might not. You might be married to a guy who is more introspective. And you're that girl that wants to, like, let's go out, let's go do something.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, I don't know. And he's that guy, I don't know. I'd rather just let's just hang out,
Yeah.
And that can get frustrating because, there's people just can't change like how they're wired.
Yeah.
And so there has to be a tolerance with understanding each other. Like there's a part of me that tolerates like the way you are. Meaning I do put up with it.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to go like, hey, I don't like that, I'm out. You know what I mean? But I go, hey, I understand that's the way you are, and I tolerate that. I'm cool with that. And I have patience with it, and it's okay.
Yeah. You got to expect there's going to be conflict. There's always going to be conflict.
Yeah.
And you're always going to be rubbing against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the way God creates it. And I believe there's some sanctification that goes on there. I already explained once. It's
amen.
like, you know, we're like,
yeah.
these rough cut gemstones, and we get thrown into the tumbler together, and we're like rubbing against each other, and we're smoothing each other out, and then we come out these beautiful gemstones at the end, you know.
Yeah.
And God's using that to, you know, sanctify, make us more like Christ.
Yeah, totally.
If we're open to it, and you know, we're in submission to Him, that should be happening. Otherwise, you just kind of get bitter, and then we start seeing divorces, and it's because they don't want to. They're rubbing against each other, and they don't want to compromise. They don't want to come Christ-centered. This is the way I am. You need to love me for the way I am, and no one's willing to budge.
Yeah, to have tolerance for tolerance sake doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you say, well, I'm just going to have tolerance, and meaning I'm going to be okay with your errors, you know, your flaws, or the way you're wired and the way you do things, and I'm just going to be tolerant of that. And you don't bring in mercy, and you don't bring in the Christian concepts of grace and all that and what those things mean, then you'll get frustrated over time, and you'll go, you know, this tolerance thing it feels like I'm getting beat up. It feels like I'm allowing someone to run over me.
Yeah.
You know, where when you have mercy and grace, the biblical idea is that we don't just have mercy, but we love to have mercy.
Yes.
It becomes actually a joy of ours to extend mercy and grace. So it's not like it's not devoid of emotion.
Yeah.
Having mercy, it's
and it's
with
not
emotion.
Christian just to let someone continually sin against you.
No.
There's nowhere in the Bible you see that where it says just let them keep. You know, we're supposed to forgive. You know,
What do
if
you
they
mean?
come seven times,
Love covers a multitude of sin, dude.
And 7 times you forgive them.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
But no, that doesn't mean you just let people continually sin against you and
Right.
call it
Tolerance.
I'm being so godly.
Yeah,
Look
I'm
at
so
me.
tolerant. Just no, there's the idea of tolerance. Of course, there's a right kind of tolerance to be able to, of course, where we have to accept people for how they are. Yeah, absolutely. And those kind of things. And we bring in mercy and we grace and we love those things and that kind of thing. But in my scenario with like the way people are wired, like if you're in that marriage and you are an introvert and you never want to go out, like you never will take the step of going out, then you're not being very tolerant and loving and graceful to your partner.
Yeah.
What you're saying is you always need to be tolerant of me, meaning you always need to do what I want to do because I'm an introvert and I don't like to be around people. That's not good, right? You have each person needs to be able to extend a step of faith to say, I am going to move into your camp and I'm going to go into your world and because I love you and I love what makes you you. And what makes you you is your love for Prince and the Revolution and your love for this and your love for that and your love for this. And there's something beautiful about that I need to experience. Yeah. So I'm willing to trust and move over to your side.
And I feel like in a Christian marriage, the onus for that falls on the husband a lot more, I feel like, a lot of times, because we're called to love our wife sacrificially. She's to, you know, show us that, you know, we're the head of the household, but we're called to love her as Christ loved the church. So I feel like we have 2 different roles. Like you see that what they're told to do, it's not the same. They're very different roles that they're given. So I think when you're the husband, there should be a lot more sacrifice coming from you than necessarily from the wife. Yeah,
I mean, I think you're right in that, you know, man, take a lead. Take the step of leading, you know, in that area of saying, hey, what is my wife like? My wife is so different from me in many things. I mean, people in the church always go like, hey, you are married, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm married. And I just don't see your wife. Because my wife's a lot different from me. You know, she's a very quiet person. She's a very introverted person. She feels much more comfortable in very small environments. You know, being around a bunch of people and having everybody, hey, what's up, high five, you know, that kind of thing. That's not her thing. and that's great. And if it was every night for Beau, it might, and this is Beau in his 20s, let's say 20s and 30s, it would have been like, let's go out, let's go out. It would have been spastic Beau, let's just go do it. Let's get on the skateboards and go skate somewhere, you know what I mean? Or, that kind of thing. And Sylvia is more of the, I grew up in a Mexican house where we cooked food and we watched shows. And a lot of people that's listening to us right now, they totally relate to that. They go, I grew up like that. But that's not how I grew up. I grew up with a very tiny household, not much family at all, and my family was a bunch of kids in a neighborhood, and I'm on a BMX bike, and we're just riding around, and that whole thing, that was kind of a very Generation X, kind of boyish world, and so for me, like being a leader, it took me some years, I would say a good 10 years, 15 years, to really understand that coming into Sylvia's camp, into her world, there's things over there that are beautiful that I can learn. And that I'm not really giving up Beau, but what I'm doing is I'm learning another way to do things. And what I've kind of grown, now that I'm in my 50s, man, I really enjoy my wife's style. You know what I mean? I've learned to like it.
She converted you.
She converts you. Where you go, and it's great. Like I'll give for instance. I played hockey as an adult, and I always loved it. I go to the ice rink, the kids are born, take the kids to the rink. It was a Beau thing. I grew up around this sport. It's the thing. And Sylvia's Mexican, man. That's not her thing.
They much hockey.
No, community. No. Soccer, man. Soccer, boxing. Those two things. And I didn't grow up around soccer or boxing. So, it was around, but it wasn't in my family culture. Baseball, it was baseball and hockey. I mean, hockey being the first. And so Sylvia, though, what she did so amazing when she was like 28, 29, she goes, hey, you know what? I'm going to play hockey. And I was like, what? No way. And she goes, yeah, I'm going to play hockey. Is there like a rookie team I could join? And I was blown away. I thought there's no way Sylvia's going to do this, because
it's like a co-ed league.
Yeah, it's like co-ed rookie. It was a co-ed rookie league out here. They no practices. They just suited up and went out on the ice. They had a ref that just dropped the puck basically and let them go. And it was full teams, 5-on-5. And a goalie, and. But I thought that was so amazing how she got out of her world and she saw my world, and she said, I'm going to join Beau's world, and it's going to be different from my thing. It's going to be abnormal. It's going to be weird. I'm going to be putting on all these pads. I'm going to have to learn how to skate. She did not grow up skating or rollerblading or roller skating in our day. It was no rollerblades. But, so she was such an athlete just naturally with soccer and stuff, and I think her some of that boxing background, like DNA, was in her, like nice, good feet. You know what I mean? Where she just got on I remember she put on skates, and I put a stick in her hand, and she literally went out there and she skated, like on hockey skates.
All right, yeah.
And she did it right. She pushed off. Outside,
because it's different. Because ice skates have a toe pick.
That's right.
And you can kind of like, I've skated a little bit, and I was like, I remember like, oh, this would be awesome if I had a toe pick. I didn't know much about skating, but I could already tell, like, because we went to the rink and they're like, you want ice skates or hockey skates? I was like, I ain't putting no ice. Give me those hockey skates.
That's right.
And then I put on the hockey skates, and then I was watching the person I was with. She had a toe pick. And usually I was like, oh, that would make this a lot easier.
Yeah, because you can just
I'm
kind
not
of go
going to
straight.
put on ice skates. I'm wear these
Yeah, the hockey skates are way cooler looking. Yeah, so she pushed out to the side. She just she watched obviously everybody, myself skating, and she went like, "That's how you do it," and she mimicked it, and I was blown away. And she joined the league, and she played for years. She played so much in that league that I ended up saying, you know what, I'm gonna play goalie in the rookie league. And they would use me to ref her games, but then I thought, you know what, I'll just pad up, and I'll just play goalie. And she scored on me before, where she comes in on a breakaway, and I got all this padding that's like 50 pounds on me, and I'm not a goalie in hockey, so it's awkward. But when she shoots it, it's like I can only see the rubber so much, and then the goalie mask cuts off.
Has like blind spots.
Yeah, blind spots where I'm not good enough to know what to do, and I lose the puck, and I think I got it, and then I'm looking, and she's all like, I scored, and I'm like, oh, really? And the puck's behind me, but that was a beautiful example of kind of accepting the way I am and moving into that area. Right. And so she's definitely, I think, been amazing in that way. I don't expect her to do that with everything, that I do. But she's blossomed in a lot of ways. I see that, I've rubbed off on her, and she's had a willingness to come into my world. And then I know I've rubbed off, or she's rubbed off on me, where so many of the times I enjoy just me and her hanging out, and watching a show, and just, kicking back and chatting, having cool talks, and that kind of thing. So anyway.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you think someone can have a good marriage and not be a Christian?
I think if you define good as just like overall, like can it last and be healthy? I think people can, and I think people have shown that around the world, that there are people that have been able to have a measure of compassion on one another and commitment towards one another, where whatever their ideas are, about God or no God or something like that, because we're all made in the image of God, there is a quality that as human beings are able to achieve. Like we're able to do amazing things simply because we're made in the image of God, and even though we're lost in every facet, there are people, I believe, that can and do have good marriages and healthy marriages that aren't Christians.
Right. What do you think the most important thing they have to have is then? Out of that list that they're giving here, what would you say would the number one, if you're not a Christian, what's the number one thing off that list that you would have to have a successful marriage?
Wow, man, I would say a successful marriage.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to, to me, you have to have, like, I guess it would be like, if you're not committed, then you're not going to have a successful marriage.
Yeah. I agree with that. Okay. I want to read this quote that I got from W.H. Auden.
Okay.
Who was a poet.
Yeah.
And not a Christian to my knowledge. But I found, it sounds very Christian what he says here, and I was kind of surprised. He says that like everything which is not the involuntary result of fleeting emotion, but the creation of time and will, any marriage, happy or unhappy, is infinitely more interesting than any romance, however passionate. So he kind of is going into that. It's like, it's not based on emotion. So we hear that so much in the world. Like, you want passion. I need this passion. He's saying it's not about passion. What he's saying is it's commitment. It's time and will. It's a choice you make.
Yeah. And
that's what we know being Christians. Like, love is a choice you make. It's not an emotion in your heart or a feeling in your chest. It's like it's something you choose to do. We love each other even when you're not being lovable.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest part of a marriage, because I'm not lovable every day. My wife's not lovable every day, but
Right.
every day I choose, like, I'm gonna love her no matter how she's acting. That's the commitment we make. That's the covenant we're in, is to love one another.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a feeling. So it doesn't matter how I feel today, if I feel like loving her or not. Like, it's a choice that I make. I continue to do it no matter what.
Yeah, and I think people that don't know the Bible, they're not born again Christians, there is a permeation of this kind of you could call it Jewish Christian philosophy
Mm-hmm.
that is certainly not just in the United States. It's permeated throughout the world.
Mm-hmm.
Even ancient cultures that, from a biblical perspective, you have the Tower of Babel and then a dispersion of people, and that's how the nations all formed. But there's an idea there. We all have an understanding of being compassionate. We all have this remnant, if you will, of what is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
We just can't seem to pull it all together.
Yeah.
And our salvation can't be dependent on us pulling it together, because we will ultimately fail.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, if you're committed, then there's a lot of things that can remedy with time,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you're not committed, then let me put it this way. If you're not committed and that's not the primary, then the roots of the tree can't grow into the ground deep. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a very biblical idea you're talking about there. You don't want to build your foundation on the sand.
Right. Where if commitment isn't the first on the list, then passion is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. When passion ceases, then you're done.
Yeah.
And many people, their marriages, the roots can't grow down, so that that thing becomes strong. And it's got, and you need those roots to go down, and that's what commitment will do, over time.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest deception where you see right now in the culture is everyone wants this passion. They want that first kiss feeling every time.
Yeah.
And when they're not having it anymore, they're like, well, it must be defunct. Like, this is null and void, and because I'm not getting those butterflies anymore.
Yeah.
So I made a mistake. This isn't, the person that completes me.
Yeah, and that's kind of a, to me, that's a real selfish idea. And the reason why is because I'm from San Fernando Valley.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what we do in San Fernando very well is we produce pornography to the world, with all the production companies. And you might be saying out there like, Beau, dude, you're crazy. But what I'm saying is that, dude, there's always more pleasure out there.
Yeah.
There's always greater heights, man. There's always things that you can get involved in.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter. One thing about pornography that you learn is that there's every kind of porn. Every kind of porn. There's red hair porn. There's fat people porn. There's, ugly people porn. There's pretty people porn. There's, every kind of person porn. There's, any fetish porn. It's just, there's everything.
Baskin Robbins.
31
flavors.
31 flavors. It's just unreal. And what do I mean is, like, because if you're saying, well, just the passions left us. Well, you're always going to say that if that's the pursuit.
Yeah.
If the primary goal is to have this passion, this sexual passion thing that's rolling, and you're trying to get that high, from it. Well, there's so many things out there that will give you that high.
Yeah.
That of course your marriage is going to fail.
And I don't mean to say either, like, I think there is a place for passion in the marriage. And
Absolutely.
there should be passion in your marriage.
Yeah.
You can't read like Song of Solomon and not say there wasn't passion there. It's very passionate.
It's called the Passion of Christ.
Yeah, but you need to have, that's where it comes back to being Christ-centered first. Yeah. And if it's Christ-centered first, then that passion and everything else, everything this article is talking about will follow that.
Yeah.
If Christ is the center. But that's why I just don't know how. I do believe, yes, people can have marriages, successful marriages, and not be Christians. I just don't know how. Because I know where my marriage was heading before Christ and where it would probably be now without Christ. So I'm like, how are they keeping this together without God?
Yeah. Let me kind of hit two things. One of them is passion. What we learn in Christianity that is unique about the idea of passion is that passion isn't selfish. Mm-hmm. It isn't a self-gratification. It isn't a pleasure from self-gratification. It is a passion for the other person. Mm-hmm. And that our passions, our sexual arousals are coming through giving and not receiving. Mm-hmm. That is a mind blower to my culture growing up, that we did not know that. Yeah. Our everything was very selfish in our sexuality. You know, you are attractive, you turn me on, this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And in Christianity, it flips it and says, no, our passions, our sexual passions, they're there, they're present, they're real in us. We are really attracted, we are really aroused, but we control that through seeking to please, and we have great joy and arousal in pleasing our beloved. Mm-hmm. And that is the Christ-like way. Jesus, for the joy that was set before him, endures the cross, despising the shame. Mm-hmm. He endures the cross, how? With the joy that was set before him. He sees a benefit to us. Mm-hmm. He sees bringing us into salvation. Mm-hmm. And he moves into the giving. Mm-hmm. He gives of himself. And so this is the idea, is that, you know, learning how to develop a new kind of idea of passion, where most people get married and they're just stoked to be having sex all the time and things like that. And then they forget about learning to find passion in giving, and that kind of thing, where it's no longer about the receiving.
That reminds me of something I heard you say in another podcast, which really, like, it just blew my mind, and I never even thought of it. Mm-hmm. But you're talking about, like, you know, a lot of times Christians think, like, well, I just have sex with no one but my wife, and so I have a good, you know, it honors God. And you're like, no, you could be all selfish, and your sex life could be all messed up and gross to God.
That's right.
And I was like, wow, like, I never even thought of that. Like, he's right, though. That's like crazy. I think I'm over here like, well, I'm not looking at pornography. I'm not having sex with anyone else. I just have sex with my wife, but I tell her when we're going to have it, how we're going to have it, and how many you know, and it's like, it's totally selfish, nasty, gross thing. Yeah. And it's not honoring God at all.
Right.
And it's just like, wow, that's like revolutionary. That like blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's I think one thing people need to understand about, you know, a passionless marriage is not a Christian marriage. Mm-hmm. Let me say that again. A passionless marriage is not a Christian marriage. A Christian marriage, clicking on the right cylinders, so to speak, is one that has passion. Mm-hmm. But that passion is not defined through lust culture. Mm-hmm. So it's not defined by porn culture. The passion that we're talking about is, it includes sex. It can include sex, but it can include all forms of intimacy. Mm-hmm. And the way passion is expressed through language, the way passion is expressed through touch, through giving, through acts of giving. All this is part of our passion within marriage. And it's great because as we get older, parts aren't going to work. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be able to have sex like we did when we were 20. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't move us away from being passionate
Yeah.
towards one another.
Yeah, and that's I think that's something I struggle with. Like you always just want to think it's like this sex thing, but it's so much other. It's all these acts of giving and sacrificing in so many other ways
Yeah.
than just what happens in the bedroom.
Yeah, sometimes it's just being passionate to touch someone's cheek
Yeah,
and look at them in the eye and just say, I love you.
yeah,
Like, you're the best. And it conveys passion. I love, in the movie The Passion of Christ, that Mel Gibson did. There's a part in that movie where Jesus is carrying his cross, and he keeps falling, and Mary is watching him suffer. And it is just gnarly.
yeah,
There's these different stages that he's moving up to Golgotha, and she's like following him, and she's crying and see him, and there's this part where someone tries to it might have been Mary that tries to like help him, and he looks at her and says, behold, I make all things new. And it's that part of the movie where you just like get the chills, man. You're just like, and it's so cool because it's weird. Jesus is going through incredible suffering. I mean the pain of the scourging and carrying his cross and the mockery, and everything is at its height, and it is just, he's a bloody pulp. And then he says, behold, I make all things new, man. He is so riveted. He is so committed. He is so focused. He is so merciful. He's so filled with joy to go to that cross for us. That is a passion. That is the greatest passion ever seen. To love someone that much, to want to be intimate with people so much that you've created, that you will indwell them, that he gives. And so that is the imagery of the sexual life of the Christian. And that's a mind blower, and that's one that I know a lot of people go, whoa, I've never even heard that in Christianity, like taught that way. But that's
it's crazy. It's crazy talking about that. You're talking about how the passion of the Christ, and seeing what he went through and what it represents and everything, and his sacrifice for us. And then they would have these passion plays back in the day, and then people would see that as a reason to go commit crimes against Jews. Like totally missing
the point.
Yeah, like that's not what this is about.
No,
you can't see the forest through the trees here.
No, and unfortunately, people have had a lot of bad misunderstandings that so passion is something that it should be in every Christian's life. It's a lot broader than just the act of sex, for sure. And so hopefully people understand that. It's a bummer when a young person, when they're getting married just for sexual purposes. And they might read a passage in the Bible that says it's better to marry than to burn with passion. And they might go like, oh, it's better to and they might latch a hold of that and kind of pull it out of
I even heard a pastor
context.
say once, like, if you want to have sex, just get married. You can have sex all you want. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what are you saying? Don't say that.
Yeah. There's a lot of
no.
Yeah, because that's there's a lot of problems with that. But that's an isolating of one passage and excluding many other passages. And that's not good Bible interpretation.
No, you got to test scripture against scripture to make sure I'm on the right track here.
Yeah. Is this an addition to what we already, you know what I mean? What is this? Is it an exception? What is it? So that kind of thing. The other thing you mentioned was, that people, don't know Christ, but can walk in a marriage that is healthy. And no matter the reason, people can exercise mercy and not know the God of mercy.
Mm-hmm.
People can exercise grace and not know the God of grace.
I think it goes back to like what you're saying. We all have that innate inkling still.
Yeah.
Because it says in Ecclesiastes, God is hidden eternity in every man's heart.
That's right. And we're made in the image of God. We have a likeness, a God likeness. So we have these character qualities, these abilities.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is that a Christian knows why we're doing what we're doing, and what is the ideal and why it's the ideal. And we have in a sense, a rationality to what we're doing. A person who might be an atheist might say, well, this is just the way we kind of, like, hey, it's, it's up in the air of why we're doing what we're doing. And it might just be a biological thing going on in my brain and and, it could be whatever. But the problem with the atheist is that right when you say, well, I'm having mercy because it's a biological product of the brain, well, that person over there is not having mercy, and that's also a biological product of the brain. So what makes one product of the brain greater or better than any others?
Well, it's like when people say like, oh, I go out to nature and it really makes I feel God. And which you can feel that, but like,
sure.
I'm like, well, have you ever seen a coyote tear a rabbit apart?
Yeah.
You feel God in that? Does that fill you with love in your heart?
So I totally think that, you can be in all kinds of forms of partnerships in the world, many different kind of varieties of partnerships, and have mercy on someone and have compassion on them and have a care for people and those kind of things. You certainly can. It's just Christians have a reason of why we are doing what we're doing. And we have an example. So we don't just have the law or philosophy or things like that. We have an example of the one who did it the best.
Yeah.
So
and it's always kind of sad to see people in the secular world get it better than Christians.
That's right.
You see that a lot.
Yeah, you do. And that is one of those things where it's a challenge for those in the church to really say, hey, am I really, looking at Christ in my life? I've been going to church 30 years, but am I really, really there for the right reasons?
Yeah.
Am I really learning? Am I really growing, in my walk with God and with my fellow human beings out there?
And we should all be taking those checks and balances
all the time.
All the time, like in my own life, too often I find myself being a jerk for Jesus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just condemning people and like wanting to see them get their comeuppance.
Yeah, I know. Pastor Scott the other day in our teaching on Amos was talking about how we can get off our rockers so quickly, especially with social media today, and you can just get on a comment corner, and you could just hammer away at people because it's all built to frustrate you.
Yeah.
All the videos. You notice the way the videos are nowadays. It's always like some person who looks shocked.
Yeah.
Right? And it says like, this person destroyed by this person, or this person's argument, is it's like this wow thing.
But that's what we want because we're all sinful and distorted. And that's what if we put up there like, oh, look at this person that went to this orphanage and read to we don't want to see that. I want to see like the bad stuff, or someone destroyed someone else. That's what appeals to my own sinful nature.
Yeah, I mean, today it's amazing. I mean, when Robert Jensen wrote his book, Getting Off, about the porn industry, 10, 15 years ago, he talked about how porn was the reason why men don't want to talk about porn because it is a reflection of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he even said society doesn't want to talk about pornography because it's a reflection of how depraved we've become.
Mm-hmm.
And no one wants to get there. No one wants to talk about just how bad we are. But what's amazing is YouTube, if it's done anything, it has shown the world just how bad we are.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you go on YouTube and you just go, wow, we are jacked. Like, we are a mess. All we do is bicker, brawl, strive, hate. You know what I mean? We can't pull it together at all.
Nope.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, hey.
Good podcast.
Yeah, totally. Talk to you later.
Bye.